I'm back. Technical problem, sorry. Anyway, I also had 5 mild concussions, and the last mild concussion took place while I was in the boiler. I'm going to say sometime in early mid-March of 2009. We were in an outage and coal handling wasn't running, and I'd gone down that day and ran coal, and then went up and helped in the boiler building, wash out the boiler on the outlet. Typically what happens is slag builds up on the tubes, and then you don't get good thermal heat transfer of the fire from the coal fireball and the water in the tube, which is preheated to 465 degrees. Anyway, we'd been working there quite a while, and I was getting really tired. By that time I'm 59 years old, and I was getting tired. And the man that happened to be there with me was Bob Husted, who was a former journeyman mechanic, then became the mechanic shop supervisor. And Bob's a pretty good guy, but he had no leadership skills. He had kind of a flat personality and somewhat arrogant. I wouldn't call him narcissistic. I just think that, I don't want to insult anybody here either, but he had an uneducated mind. He couldn't step back and think out of the box. He was very conventional. And he was also a workplace bully. And I was exhausted. And we were washing the tubes, and about 40 feet up on the right side of the tube bank from my position, which would have been the east side tube wall of the outlet. The outlet is the exit gas path coming out of the boiler that goes into the electrostatic precipitator, which no longer exists at Wyatt plant. They now use a mercury baghouse. Anyway, I was washing, and a chunk of it fell and hit me with my hard hat right here from 40 feet above, and it was a 5-pound rock. Needless to say, when it hit me, it just like compressed my neck and stunned me. I mean, I was seeing stars, but I didn't lose my balance. I had the fire hose, and it kind of balanced me, but I kept washing, and about 5 minutes later, man, I started getting nauseous, like I was going to puke, and I started getting the dry heaves. And I asked Bob, I said, "Bob, I'm sick, I got to go." I says, I'm not feeling well. And he says, "No, you stay right here." And I said, "Bob, I'm not feeling well. I feel like I'm going to vomit." And he says, "No, you stay right here." And I said, "Bob, come on. I've been here 14 hours. I need a break." He says, "No, I want you to stay right here." And I said, "Why?" And he says, "Because that's what I want." And I said, "Okay, I'll stay here. That's what you want. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're on notice. I asked and told the supervisor, according to our contract, if I state that I'm tired and I need a break, you are to release me from my job assignment and let me take a break. This is duly noted, Bob. But I'll stay." I didn't want to cause a scene there. For one thing, it was a dangerous place. It's 9.5 stories up on that where that outlet gas path is. And I didn't want to make things worse. But I'm going to tell you right now, I was ready to kick that motherfucker's ass and dump him down into the boiler. All right. I didn't. That's just what I was thinking. I mean, it's no premeditation or nothing like that. No, I'm not psycho or whatever. But when I've been up against workplace bullies, and Bob had a pattern of behavior well before that. All right. And I just about had a belly full of him. And anybody that works with me knows I don't put up with that shit. Ask Pat Johnson. Ask Rich Garman. Ask half the mechanic shop. Ask Sean Neidhart and some of those other shift supervisors. They know I got a temper. And usually it's only expressed that way when I'm extremely fatigued and tired. And you got to remember, I'm well past my 50s. I'm suffering the effects of the concussion, low testosterone, and just the aging process. The work at a power plant is very unforgiving. It's very demanding, and it's in extreme working conditions, hot to cold. It's a very unforgiving place. Anyway, finished out the day. After a 16-hour day, I went home. And I was scheduled, so I went back and ran, let's see, this was just before this would have been like in 2000, sorry, it wasn't 2009, it was 2005, the spring of 2005, because that in June I got the assignment to go to coal handling, so this would have been March of 2005, middle of March, somewhere around the 15th is when this incident occurred. And so the next day I came back and we got an assignment to clean out the clarifier over at the waterhouse. And he didn't say that what specific method we could use. And besides that, we'd done that several times. I bet by that time I'd been there 19 years, 21 years. So I knew what to do. Knew how to operate a vac truck. Knew how to operate pneumatics, electrics, whatever it took. We're skilled laborers, highly trained, and that's why we get union scale. And I'm damn proud to be Utility Workers Union of America Local 127 member out of Casper, Wyoming for the entire state of Wyoming. I'm damn proud of being a union member. And anybody that talks against a union member starts giving me shit about it, I start educating them real quick. That's bullshit, the perception people have of unions. Our union is the most democratic, member-driven union of all the labor unions in the United States. Now, we're not perfect, and we've had some poor leadership. But once in a while, we get it right. And there'll be a whole nother topic on that. I'm going to speak to that later on. Anyway, so the next day, I get the job, and we're supposed to go over to the waterhouse, so I go get the vac truck. Of course, it's low on oil and hadn't been fueled, just like it always is. Everybody, you're supposed to do that before you put it away. No one ever does. That's the policy and procedure for our plant. So some people can do it and some can't. Depends on who you are, apparently. So that took me 45 minutes to get that ready, gather up the hose, drag it over there. And by the way, I'd had a crew meeting with Larry McCann, my co-worker, and we agreed that's what we were going to do. So I took off. Apparently Bob showed up after that, and Bob asked Larry where I'm at. He says, well, I don't know. Well, didn't he come down here and meet with you? Yeah. We talked about how we're going to do the job, but I don't know where he went, which was a lie. Larry knew I was going to get the vac truck. Larry lied to cover his ass because he was intimidated by Bob Husted. And Larry's a lot bigger than Bob. I thought Larry had enough fucking balls to say, hey, fuck you, man. We'll take care of the job. Get the fuck out of here. We don't need you to bird dog us. We'll let you know if something's wrong. And I think in Bob's mind, he thought he was being conscientious by checking on his workers and everything. But he had such an abrasive style and everything, people took affront to it. And there wasn't hardly any mechanic that liked working for him. I can't think of any that did. You ask them, Mike Bacon, Keith Green, Colin Stovall, Steve Eberly, Mike Bacon. Oh, shit. That's just the ones I can think of right off the top of my head. Anyway, so we we started job, started vacuuming. Bob comes in. He says, "Kate, just what the hell do you think you're doing? I want you to dig that out." And I said, we can't do that. You got to remember, we're both over 50. We ain't gonna do it that way. What do you want me to? You want to carry me out on a stretcher, Bob? What's the deal here? He says, "No, that's how I want it." And I said, "Bob, it ain't gonna happen. We're gonna use the vac truck." And so he grabs me by my elbow and he says, "I'm taking you to the office." And I says, "You get your fucking hand off from here. I'll drop you right where you stand, you motherfucker." And he goes, "What?" I said, "Bob, I've had about enough of you and your abrasive, bully, narcissistic style of management. Now, I warned you before up in the boiler, and right now I've had about all the bullshit I'm going to take from you. So now you get the fuck out of here and let us do our goddamn job, and I'll talk to you at lunch, or we'll step outside that fence and I'll kick your fucking ass on private property. I actually am public property because I knew better than to do something on their property." Yes, I threatened Bob Husted because that motherfucker was threatening me. And I ain't putting up with that shit. Nobody should have to put up with that kind of psychological abuse in the workplace. It's bullshit. So, he left, got a supervisor to lie for him. They said, "Cates, you better decide whether you want to work here." I says, "Oh, I'll work here. I'll be here Monday after you give me my 3 days off. I need the vacation anyway. I'm fucking exhausted." I didn't give a fuck at that point. To be treated like that. And I'm going to tell you right now, Glenn Fosher and those people, they knew I was right because of the way they treated me. They treated me really nice and with a lot of respect. And they could have been just meaner than junkyard dogs and backed up Bob. But they weren't backing Bob at all. I mean, they had to look like it for appearance's sake, but they did not support Bob Husted's approach. So I said, "Well, go ahead, give me the letter, I'll sign it, no problem. I don't give a fuck at this point. And that motherfucker, you keep him away from me. You keep that motherfucker away from me. But there is going to be trouble. I'm going to have a lawsuit on this plant for discrimination against senior workers, anybody over 55, and I'm going to file an unfair labor practice. So you keep that motherfucker away from me." And they said, "Larry, we know you're upset." And I said, "You goddamn right I am. And I'm tired and I'm exhausted. And I've been hit in the head." And they didn't even think about it, that I had a concussion. And maybe that's why my behavior was such that it was. Because I'm telling you, I'm the quietest, most normal, nicest guy you ever met. But I had a personality change right there, and I got very aggressive. And that's the only explanation for it. I had a concussion, and I was suffering from post-concussion syndrome. But as it turns out, Bob never bothered me again. I got the job down in coal handling. They kept me isolated. And so I decided, fuck you guys. I'm going to be the steward here at the plant. So I worked a deal out, volunteered to do it because nobody else would do it. So I became chief steward just to protect myself because I knew those fuckers were after me. They wanted to fire me. Fuck you guys. And I was a damn good steward. And I had a lot of people come down and visit me a lot and talk about their problems, both on the job and off. And I mentored a lot of them. They won't admit it because they can't remember that long ago. Power plant's a difficult place. It's very hard on you. And I'm going to tell you this. Working at a power plant, rotating shifts or extended shifts like what we do, most of the guys that retire at age 65 within 3 to 4 years are dead. I've survived 7 years, 8 years now. And I'm a lot more wounded than most of those guys ever thought of being. People have no idea what it takes to have that TV on, that light over there, that fan running, and it's comfortable in here, and it's 95 degrees outside. They have no idea what it takes for you and I as power utility workers to do that job. It's the toughest fucking job on the planet. And then to throw in top of that a fucking authoritarian patrician style of management that's totally unnecessary. And how they abuse the members of local 127 utility workers is bullshit. And I'm going to do something about it. Because them motherfuckers screwed me as a retiree. And I'm going to get that shit straightened out. I'm retired. I got all the time in the world, but I'll get this figured out, timing and everything else. I already got the name of our current union president at Local 127, Chad Johnson, at Rock Springs, Jim Bridger plant. Plant mechanic, I believe, or a CE. I'm going to have a conversation with that guy. And instead of some fucking weenie-ass chicken shit motherfucker coming out of the National, I'm going to have the union designate me as their negotiation consultant. We're getting back every goddamn thing we deserve. And Pacific Corp and Warren Buffett can stick it right up their ass. I've suffered enough, and so has my membership. And this is how I'm going to take the energy of my personal pain and turn it into something good for somebody else, because I've done it my whole life. Ever since I was 5, 6 years old, easy. I've been this way my whole life. And I'm not your typical 67-year-old either. I think like a 30-year-old, and a smart 30-year-old at that. I graduated with honors from South Dakota State University in 1976. Didn't think much of it at the time, but when you think about how I achieved that, what I sacrificed, and the self-discipline that I had, and the scholastic ability I had, it's quite an accomplishment. I paid for my entire college education on my own. Nobody lifted a finger to help me. I did it all on my own. Just like I've done everything else on my own in my life, trying to figure out how to maneuver in life. No parenting. No mentoring. You don't get any mentoring. It makes life damn hard to try to figure out shit on your own. But I've been on my own since I was 5 years old. But I'm okay with it. I think I'm a little bit brighter, smarter than the average person for it. I'm blessed, and I'm graced by God. And I know that's the reason I'm here right now. It's because of God's grace. You are looking at a Lazarus story and a miracle. So I want to say to everybody out there, this is my musings for Wednesday, August 21st, 2018. You all have a wonderful day, and I pray for God's blessings upon all of you. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ameen, Ameen, Ameen. To all my Muslim brothers. Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Baptist, Catholic, Jew, I don't care. I don't care what you are. I care who you are. And I know you're God's gift to all of us if you choose to be. God bless you, and goodbye.